Hi, my name is Nicole. Today I'm working with Greenfield Hospital, which is a local hospital that recently started offering well baby visits to its patients. Syringes are often used during these visits to administer medications or take tests. When they first started planning to offer well baby visits, they had budgeted a certain amount of visits, so volume that was projected, as well as the number of syringes that would be used and the price that the syringes would be acquired at. Today I'm going to use information that has been gathered about the recent visits and compare that to the budgeted amounts in order to determine variances. I'm going to look at the volume variance, the acuity variance, the efficiency variance, and the price variance to determine an overall variance between the budgeted and the actual amount of visits and syringes in order to determine whether or not the well baby visits are being optimized currently. I'm going to do this problem in Excel today. When looking at the variance analysis in the well baby visit practice with the syringes, I'm first going to look at what the original budget would have been. This way, I can compare what the actual budgets are and determine the variance compared to the original. So the original budget for volume was 300. The original budget for the quantity, so the number of syringes, was 2 syringes per appointment. The original budgeted price was $1 per syringe. And so that gives me a total. So in order to find the total, I'm going to multiply the volume times the quantity times the price. So the total budgeted amount was $600. That's what I expected the syringes to cost me for the well baby visits. So in order to find out the variances, I'm going to then calculate what the other budgets would be. So based on the flexible budget, this is the budget that fluctuates based on volume. So I'm going to look at what the actual volume was and compare it to what the original budgeted volume was. So the actual budget was 250 visits. The other amounts stay the same, so the quantity of 2 syringes per visit stays the same, and then the estimate of $1 per syringe also stays the same. So the only thing that really changed in this is the volume. So the flexible budget, again, reflects the actual volume, and the original budget is the estimated volume. So to find out what the total amount of the syringes cost, I'm going to take the volume multiplied by the quantity of syringes per visit multiplied by the price of the syringes. So according to the flexible budget, the total amount spent on syringes was $500 instead of $600. So in order to find the variance, I take the flexible budget and subtract what the original was. So I get a negative value here, negative 100. In this case, it's actually good to have a negative value because it means that I spent less than I expected to. So this makes it a favorable variance because I came in under budget, and it's always favorable to be under budget rather than over budget. So again, what I changed here was going from the original budget's volume to the flexible budget's volume, reflecting the actual volume here. When I go to the flexible budget for acuity, I should probably specify here that this flexible budget was based on volume. So the flexible budget for acuity is going to take the flexible budget's volume, so the actual volume, but instead of having a quantity of 2 syringes per visit, I'm going to use the actual quantity, or the budgeted quantity of 3. So we're still in the budgeted quantity here, This is just based on the acuity of the visits. So maybe instead of being able to do the job with 2 syringes, a doctor had to actually use 3. Just based on how sick patients were, maybe they needed more medicine than we originally estimated, which accounts for acuity causing a higher volume of syringes to be used. The price in this case stays the same, so we're still saying that the per unit cost of a syringe is $1. So again, the only thing that's changing is the acuity, which is going from 2 syringes per visit to 3 based on acuity needs. So to calculate the cost of the syringes, I'll take the volume, multiply it by the quantity used, and then take that and multiply it by the price per syringe. So here it's saying that syringes were $750 instead of what we would have thought would be $5. So again, to calculate the variance, I'm going to take the flexible budget, so due to acuity, and subtract the flexible budget due to volume. So this is an unfavorable variance. And this unfavorable variance is due to acuity. For whatever reason, we're using more syringes than what we would have thought at each visit. So due to acuity, though, so no part of the doctor, just patients were sicker than we thought they would be. Now we're getting even closer to actuality, so we're going to keep going over and use the same volume here of volume of visits of 250 visits. That's the actual volume. But instead of using the 3 syringes per visit that were due to acuity, we see that they actually used 4 syringes per visit. So this is due to efficiency rather than acuity. So there's a difference between patients just being sicker and therefore taking up more resources and having an inefficient system. So sometimes in inefficient systems, we overuse syringes. Maybe the nurses who were using the syringes weren't properly trained and there were spoiled syringes, or they were broken, or we thought we had done the job with 3, but then we actually needed to go back and use 4. There's a number of possibilities that we could say caused this change to 4 syringes from 3 due to efficiency. So then we're still assuming that the price was $1 per syringe. So we haven't gotten all the way to reality yet. But then to calculate the total cost of syringes in this scenario, we're going to take the volume of visits of 250 multiplied by the quantity of syringes used. So this is accounting for both acuity and efficiency. Multiplying by the price of the syringe is $1. So then we see that the syringes actually cost $1,000 in this case. So in order to calculate the variance here, we're again going to take the newly budgeted amount of $1,000 and subtract that from what we thought only cost $750. So here there's another unfavorable variance, but this time it's due to efficiency, not acuity. So it goes one step further. And then once again, I'm going to take one more step closer to reality and go all the way to the actual amount used. So in the actual budget, we take all of the figures that actually happened. So the actual number of patient visits is 250. The actual number of syringes used is 4. Again, that's accounting for the efficiency factor. But then the actual per unit cost of a syringe was $1.50 instead of just $1. So then we can figure out what the total is by multiplying the volume of syringes used, the volume of patient visits multiplied by the number of syringes used per visit multiplied by the price per syringe, and then we get $1,500. So to figure out the variance for this, we take the $1,500 minus $1,000. We get a variance of $500, and this is again, an unfavorable variance. So anytime you have the positive amount, it means that your actual cost more than what your budget allowed for. So that is a negative thing. We don't want to come in higher than what our budget was. So that's unfavorable, and that's due to the per unit cost of the syringe. So we estimated that the syringes would cost less than they actually did. So in order to find out what the total variance is, we can just add all of the different variances found along the way. So we take the variance due to volume when we got less visits than we thought we would, plus the variance due to acuity. So that's when we were using more syringes than we thought we would, but based on how sick the patients were. Then we add that to the variance due to efficiency. So that's when we're either possibly spoiling the syringes or for whatever reason we're not using the syringes efficiently, plus the unfavorable variance due to the cost per unit. So when we do all of that, we see that the total variance here is $900. It's a positive value, which means that it's an unfavorable variance because it means that these well baby visits, using syringes at the well baby visits, cost $900 more than what we had originally budgeted for. So the practice manager should probably have a look at how the syringes are being used, possibly renegotiate a rate on the syringes, or find another way to bring the cost down, or just make the budget more realistic. But this is something that needs to be looked at because it's costing more than we expected it to.